Aaron and Rebecca Harrison's story. It was almost time, and Aaron was getting nervous of the big day. She had been worried for the last few weeks about the delivery. She had never done this before, and she was terrified she wouldn't be a good mother. Her husband, Dwayne, reassured her she would be, but it didn't curve the nerves. A couple days before she was due, Erin began to feel better. She became anxious knowing she'd be able to show her how to control the gift she'd be passing down to her daughter. It had been passed down to her upon her own birth and took some time to learn how to control it. In the wrong hands, it would be considered a dangerous thing, a curse to mankind. Long before her birth, her mother had made a pact with the devil himself, or so the story was told. She didn't know how true the stories were. All she knew was that destruction filled her veins, and she could kill anyone she wanted to just by being near them. She accepted her gift and never used it. She tried to be a good woman, attend church, made her weekly visits to the PDA, and prayed for salvation every night. Being who she was couldn't be stopped, so she just chose to accept it and move on with her life. On August 22nd, 1970, Erin went into labor. The pains were excruciating. She thought she was going to pass out from them. "Dwayne, something's wrong," she kept saying. "Nonsense. Women have babies all the time. You're going to go in there, push that baby out, and everything's going to be all right." They rushed to the hospital nonetheless. When they arrived, she was put in a wheelchair and taken back to the labor room where the doctor prepped everything for a natural birth. It was their plan. He'd been with her during their entire pregnancy and gotten to know her rather well. The contractions were very strong. Erin was fully dilated and effaced. She was trying not to push as she was lifted onto the bed. She kept repeating the words, "Something is wrong." As soon as her feet were placed in the stirrups, she began pushing. It was fast. Just a few pushes. A little girl was born. The time was 11 in the morning. The doctor cleaned up the baby, cut the cord, and placed the baby on her chest. Erin looked down at her little baby and smiled. As she began to tell her that she loved her baby, Erin's body went limp. Dwayne Harrison's story. Dwayne held onto his wife's hand as she pushed her baby out of her. The delivery was rather fast. He was amazed by it. Seeing his little girl being born was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. It didn't bother him that there was so much blood. He saw a beautiful, healthy little girl, something he'd always wanted, and he was proud. He watched the nurses fuss over her, cleaning the blood off and making her cry. Hearing the cry brought tears to his eyes. She was his little girl, his baby girl, and he vowed to protect her forever at that moment. One of the nurses wrapped a blanket around the baby and placed her on Erin's chest. She began to say something. Dwayne wasn't sure, and then she was still. The nurse grabbed the baby and they rushed to Erin's side. Dwayne wasn't sure what was going on. It was happening all too quickly. "Sir, you're going to have to leave the room." The nurse put her hand on his shoulder and escorted him out of the room. She held the baby in her arms as they left the birthing room. "What's happening to my wife?" No answer. "Please, tell me what's happening to her." "Your wife is unresponsive, sir. You're going to have to wait here," the nurse said. She handed the baby to another woman who took her away, and the nurse rushed back into the room. Dwayne stood there unable to register what was going on and watched through the window on the door. She was unresponsive. That was all they told him. As the tears gushed from his eyes, he prayed, "Oh God, please don't take my baby from me. She's my world. Please don't take her. Take me instead. Please." As the time slipped away from him, he kept his eyes on the room. Finally, the doctor walked out. He had a very serious look on his face as he walked through the door. Dwayne knew what that look meant, and he fell to the floor. "No, God, please, no." "I'm so sorry, Dwayne. We tried what we could. You don't know what happened. She's gone," the doctor told him. "If you need some time, I'll let you say your goodbye." He opened the door and allowed Dwayne to enter the birthing room. He waved his hand to show the nurses to leave him alone. Dwayne approached his wife, lying still on her bed. He picked up her lifeless hand and kissed it. Why did you leave me? Why couldn't I take your place? He wanted her to sit up and answer back something. He couldn't believe she was gone. How was he going to raise this child alone?